minding my own business, looking up some, places over there on the ridge. Came across a house. Then the owner looked a lot like another person that I'd seen, and so I started investigating, and guess what I found? You'll see. Washington mobile home communities organize against economic eviction. Port Orchard-based Hurst Sons LLC bought dozens of parks in recent years. Now residents say the company is raising rents and cutting services. Economic eviction, basically, in my opinion, they're buying up all the mobile home parks and they're raising the rents and decreasing what the services to push people out so that they can mow down all those mobile homes and build something bigger and better and more expensive on those pieces of property. So definitely economic eviction basically is what it is. All these people. August 30th, 2023. From her pristine garden to her punchy graphic tees, 78-year-old Judy Short emanates a great warmth and appreciation for everything around her. Upon entering her home in Aberdeen's Leisure Manor Estates, guests find an office nook lined with vintage knickknacks and Seattle Seahawks memorabilia. Her kitchen shines in a resplendent shade of cherry red, and in its windows let in sunshine that carries on to the rest. And in many windows let in sunshine that carries onto the rest of the house. I bet it's pretty. It's a three-bedroom home, but she has converted the second and third bedrooms into cat-themed craft room and a playroom for when her grandchildren come to visit. Judy Short walks through the Leisure Manor Estates neighborhood, July 21st, 2023. Short's mother moved into the park in the 1980s, and Short had lived there for the past 5 years. When we moved in 5 years ago, it was going to be an affordable place to live, and everybody here got along so well, she said. We had activities, and you could go out and walk and visit with people, and it was just a good community. And now everybody's nervous, and nobody knows what's going to happen next. In the late 2021, Port Orchard-based mobile home management company Hurst Sons LLC acquired Leisure Manor with a string of pandemic-era purchases. And since then, its tenants have faced steep rent increases, threatening them with economic eviction, along with new alleged problems with upkeep and maintenance that did not exist before. Left. Deb and Dave Wilson outside their home in Leisure Manor Estates. The right picture is family photos and line the wall of the Wilson's home. Okay. Hurst Sons growing presence in Washington state reflects a broader pattern in which investors increasingly purchase and centralize such communities, making one of the last reliable options for lower-income housing less and less affordable. True. Lawmakers opened the door this year to expanding resident-led ownerships of park communities. But other proposals to regulate the industry and cap rising rents stalled. Leisure Manor has since become an example of how mobile home park residents can band together with other communities to push back and defend their homes. This is not trailer trash, longtime tenant Bill Hardy said during a recent tour of the park. His wife Carolyn helped found the new Tenants Association and has rallied neighbors to organize in opposition, from filing complaints to the Attorney General's office to coming out in support of a rent notice ordinance at their local city council. Right on, you go, girl. We're hoping to get all these people together, Carolyn Hardy said, so that we can fight. Wow, this has got to be so just scary, like literally scary, because a place you've lived, you love, you keep it up, you do, your best, you are doing what you're supposed to do. You're paying your bills, you're keeping it up, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, yet they come in to push you out by making it sound and seem like you're not raising your rent to astronomical. Like literally, I think one of them I heard on here was it was almost it was almost wait, it was double plus like $100. I mean, it was amazing what they did. I mean, it was crazy. Anyway, a growing threat of displacement for sure. Leisure Manor Estates, a lush, idyllic mobile home community tucked off Highway 105, has long served as a retreat for seniors away from some of the surrounding small town dreariness. I got to put on some of my lip balm. Winter always does it to me. Lip. Give me lip service. Okay. Pastel homes line the streets, front lawns lovingly adorned with kitschy lawn gnomes, and wooden figurines. An average day in the community is quite still, save for the occasional dog bark and cheerful greeting between neighbors on their morning walks. In this community, everybody knows everybody, and despite the supposed impermanence of these homes, many of Leisure Manor's tenants have settled into this steady way of life for decades. When Hurst Sons LLC took over the park in late 2021, their lives were upended, and many for sale signs have since gone up throughout the park, nearly 200 lots. The park's nearly 200 lots, so it's got 200 lots altogether. I came home from a walk this morning seeing those other for sale signs and just wanted to throw a sign on the front of our place, she said. I just wanted to get the hell out of here. Adults 55 and over. The entrance of Leisure Manor Estates in Aberdeen, a 55-plus mobile home community purchased by Hurst & Son in late 2021, mobile home parks are one of the last reliable affordable housing options in the state, especially for people on fixed incomes. Residents said that they paid around $485 in rent and utilities under the previous management. Now, with Hurst & Son's most recent rent proposals, residents will be expected to pay close to $750 and plus increase of approximately 55%. Oh, and an increase of approximately 55%. Yeah. Oh my God, that's just scary. Residents also told Crosscut that Hurst & Son introduced separate charges for garbage and sewer services, costing community members close to an additional $100 a month. That must be what I was thinking when I mentioned that part. They said Hurst & Son also cut landscaping services, leaving residents to mow their own lawns and maintain common areas. Older residents, some of them in their 90s with limited mobility, now pay additional costs to hire lawnmowers. If residents did not comply with Hurst & Son's rules of mowing or parking, they risk a $65 per violation charge. Dang. It's a real racket, Short quipped. Maybe I'm just jealous that I didn't think of it myself. Run by husband and wife Caleb and Christina Romack, Hurst & Son has acquired 60 mobile home parks since 2017, according to the company's website, with many of those purchased during the pandemic. Yeah, that, like I've always said, COVID messed with so many people, man. It just, I mean, maybe it was their plan. I'm sure it was part of the plan, because it was a plan. The company now lists 73 mobile home park communities across 5 states, including 56 parks and 21 Washington counties. The company also owns several commercial properties. Records from several county assessor offices indicate that Hurst & Son spent at least $116 million on 35 parks in Washington state in the past 6 years. Many of them were purchased well above assessed value, including Leisure Manor Estates, which was purchased for $11 million, close to double the county's assessment of $5.65 million. See? Because they know the property is worth it. That's why they're raising the rents, and they're going to get them out of there because they know that they can sell that property for so much. They can quadruple the property, and maybe even more, right? Once everybody's out of there. Sick. Federal data showed the company also received approximately $200,000 in pandemic economic aid in 2020. Oh my gosh. The rich just keep getting richer because they know all these little things they get away with, right? Judy Short works in her garden behind her home in Leisure Manor Estates. July 21st, 2023. When Hurst Sons purchased the park in 2021, they laid off the landscapers who kept up the outdoor common areas. Short has taken on some of that work herself, tending to flowers and greenery to keep her park looking nice. Aww. The previous owners of Leisure Manor provided on-site maintenance and landscapers who would mow the grass behind the tenants' properties. Under Hurst Sons, tenants are now responsible for the upkeep in these areas, even though they are outside the bounds of their property. Whoa. Wow. That seems like a little bit illegal. Hurst Sons continues to expand into other parts of Northwest, including purchases in Idaho and Montana, and even has gone as far as North Dakota, where they now own 3 parks. Caleb Romack declined to comment when Crosscut reached him on his cell phone. Though Romack did not respond to multiple emails or follow-up voicemails requesting response for complaints in this story, the couples have pledged to address complaints or park damage in previous news stories. Emails from Hurst Sons to state officials contend they are following relevant laws. Oh, they got one all the way down to San Fran, huh? Earlier this year, the Yakima Herald-Republic detailed rent hikes at Hurst Sons communities in Yakima, as well as E. coli contamination in the water at one of those parks. Here we go. Here's the connect. The Moscow Pullman Daily News covered a meeting in March when residents from multiple Hurst Sons communities in Moscow sought guidance from housing advocates on their rights in light of rent raises and limits on selling their homes. Bellingham tenants shared similar complaints last year. Other reports described a 2019 flooding at the Squilchuck Creek community in Wenatchee, in north central Washington, and a fire at a recently acquired mobile home community in Milton Freewater, Oregon, last year. For this story, Crosscut spoke with dozens of Hurst Sons community residents across the state, housing advocates, and lawmakers. Crosscut also obtained lease records, emails between Hurst Sons and residents, property sales records, and consumer complaint data from the state attorney general's office. So the left picture is the price of a home for sale in Leisure Manor Estate was significantly reduced from $150,000 to $99,000 recently. Many of the park's 200 lots are for sale as rent and utility hikes have forced residents out of their homes. Now on the right, a sewer drain in Leisure Manor Estate is sinking into the ground, neighbors said when it rains in winter. The drain frequently backs up and floods the streets. Jeez. In recent years, many mobile home community landlords like Hurst and Son. Now, remember that. It's not Sons, it's Son. Hurst and Son. Okay? Just keep that in mind. Anyway, they have grown rapidly, acquiring and consolidating management over parks amid an explosion of investor interest. Bingo. Residents, and this is what this made me think was a university. Like, with them acquiring like the Arizona, that one and all that stuff, and then that, did it fall through or what? I don't know. We don't hear anything about it anymore. But I mean, from what I understand, they didn't end up doing the deal, but who knows? Now, with the expansion of university with students and stuff, and all the other things that they want to explore, I guess, with education, are they part? I don't know. I'm just asking. Is this part of the plan? I mean, do the people that own Hurst and Son, are they members of the church? I don't know. But, oh, they're on to me. There they go again. Let's let this pass. I'm just joking. I got tinfoil all around my car. They can't see me. Just kidding. It's way too much tinfoil to buy. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so I'm just curious about that because, well, I'm gonna get this all. It's gonna come all together. It might take a few videos, but it's gonna come together. Okay, just bear with me. Where was I at? Okay. In recent years, many mobile home communities landlords like Hurst Sons have grown rapidly, acquiring and consolidating management over parks amid the explosion of investor interest. Residents say new owners often implement steep rent increases and cut services that reduce property values and the quality of life. Last week tonight with John Oliver outlined in Trend in 2019, but the pandemic has only exacerbated the market pressures on these communities. Management companies have argued that rent increases are necessary to keep up the market rates and to have funds to make improvements to the community. The problem is they're not making improvements to the community. They're doing quite the opposite, actually. Some sell potential investors on purchasing manufactured home communities by saying such homes add to a region's housing stock and help improve housing affordability. However, Victoria O'Banion, who works with manufactured home owners in Washington and North Idaho to form ownership cooperatives to purchase their communities, argues such rent increases are part of a multi-year gentrification cycle. She said the end game is to move residents to higher rents and flip the park for many times the purchase price. Bingo. Right there. Circle that right there, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing that, and they're doing it pretty rapidly. In other words, manufactured home communities become another housing option for higher income earners, while those with tighter incomes are left with fewer choices. Seniors and other fixed income residents increasingly get priced out of one of the last accessible housing options. Eventually, she said, Grandma Sally is economically evicted. Grandma Sally is economically evicted. So then where does Grandma Sally go? So then you've got, you think about that. Where does Grandma Sally go? Maybe to one of her kids' places, maybe a friend, maybe some of them get together and purchase something, or they can all get together and be on a property together. Highly unlikely, but just thinking. To a retirement home, probably, the amount of money those things cost, I don't know. Or are they going to be on the streets? Adding to the homeless population that's going on in this world right now. And it's astronomical. It's crazy. I mean, I can actually want to speak on that because I never, ever, 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 ever thought that I would be living in my freaking car. Never. And it happened so quick. Like it was just boom, boom. I mean, it was just, wow. Okay, whatever. So it happens. It happens. And it happens to people. I mean, like I said, never in my wildest dreams would I thought that this is where I would be right now. So channeling frustration into action. For 25 years, Elva Simmons owned a 5-bedroom home in Yakima until a family emergency in December 2020 forced her to sell. She first moved to the Broadmoor Park manufactured home community in Yakima. Rent increases there pushed her out within a year. She said she spent the next several weeks living in her car, hotels, and a tent at Yakima Sportsman State Park. Simmons, who spent many years working in agriculture, said she eventually found a rental rate in her price range at Hurst & Son owned Suntides community in nearby Glebe, just a few miles west off of U.S. Highway 12. The area boasts a family-owned fruit stand, a towny dive bar, and an 18-hole golf course. Elva Simmons moved into Hurst Sons Tides community just outside Yakima after living in her car and a tent for several weeks. Since moving in almost a year ago, she has dealt with E. coli contaminated water and rent increases. From one bad, yeah. She said she has spent thousands of dollars on repairs and renovations on her home. One room serves as a craft space where she works on roped baskets that she sells at local bazaars. She hoped she had found a new refuge after months of instability. Now 72-year-old Simmons showed visible frustration on her face as she once again grappled with the same frustrating cycle. Suntides raised her rent this year from $535 to $610 a month, and she just received notice that rent will increase again to $650 a month come January. What am I going to do? I'm stuck, she said. I tried to make the best of it. The rent increase came after months of struggling with E. coli contaminated water throughout the 56-lot park. From November to March, Simmons and her fellow residents bought their own bottled water and waited for help from Hurst Sons. Simmons said all they got was a notice when the water was drinkable again. To this day, she said she continues to purchase bottled water because she doesn't trust that Hurst Sons has solved the issue. That's not good. Do you think so little of us that we're not worth a bottle of water? She asks. Elva Simmons rinses her dog's water bowl at the kitchen sink before refilling it with bottled water. August 16, 2023, from November 20... Okay, so August 16, 2023. Oh, that's when she rinsed it. Okay. From November 2022 to March 2023, the tap water at Suntides was contaminated with E. coli. Freaking November 20... You got November... My gosh. Simmons, who has an autoimmune disorder, is still wary of drinking the tap water and continues to rely on bottled water. I do not blame you one little bit. Elva Simmons has taken a lead role organizing neighbors and residents of other Hurst Sons parks in Yakima as they compare notes on the company. Good deal, you guys. The Suntides mobile home community was purchased by Hurst Sons in 2020. With help from housing advocates, Simmons has taken on organizing her neighbors in communities around Yakima, helping them compare notes. She sometimes visits nearby parks like the White Dove community in Union Gap, where she met Geraldo Limon. Limon has lived in White Doves for nearly 15 years. He said the park has provided an affordable housing option for him and his wife and his daughters. Since Hurst Sons took over in 2021, Limon's monthly housing costs have doubled, he said. His lot rent increased from $400 to $600, and now separately pays for utilities previously included in the lot rent. As he's received multiple notices with claims of policy violations, each one is a $65 fee. Some statements allege late rent despite his documentation of timely payment. As Limon walked through the park during a visit with a Crosscut reporter earlier this month, he pointed to the dry brown lawns in many lots to emphasize the deterioration of the park. Despite many requests, management has yet to turn on irrigation water. Oh my gosh. Limon said, I mean, that's just something in those towns over there. Let me finish reading this. Noted that he has kept his lawn green using city water. I just don't live happily anymore like I used to, he said. In recent months, Simmons has connected with an emergency network of other Hurst Sons residents across the state. Most recently, she participated in a monthly meeting of Hurst Sons residents, conducted both in person and via Zoom in July, talked with worried residents in Aberdeen and Spokane. Between her virtual and her in-person connections, she's heard numerous stories that echo her own struggles and frustrations: rising lot rents, excessive notices of alleged policy violations, and deterioration of park maintenance. It's eye-opening, she said. I can't believe a company would take advantage of low-income people, hard-working people. Well, it happens every day. It does suck, big time, and I'm sorry this is happening. Oh, boy. Building a collective case. Deb Wilson and Carolyn Hardy, longtime residents of Leisure Manor, said they had no experience organizing or networking before Hurst and Son took over the Aberdeen Park. Now they feel like it might be their best chance to save the community they love. We thought this was going to be our forever home, said Hardy. We moved in back in 2008. Wow. Shortly after the acquisition, the women began to notice how deeply the rest of their community bore the weight of Hurst and Sons management. They said tenants confided their fears, the eviction from no longer being able to wait. They said tenants confided their fears of eviction from no longer being able to afford living outside, or no longer being able to afford living inside their homes, to speaking up about other inconveniences within the park. There are some people who have been told, don't talk to your neighbors about this or you'll get evicted. Oh my God. Or there's a sense that if you talk with them, something bad will come back at you, in one way or another. Wow, those are threats, you guys. Wow. Leisure Manor, okay, so up here, there's Leisure Manor residents and members of the tenants organization, including Judy Short, Deb Wilson, and Carolyn Hardy. You go, girls. Meeting community clubhouse to discuss Hurst and Son policy changes and rent increases in July. I wonder if they put up cameras to monitor them too. That would not surprise me. One of their earliest moves was to contact Ann Sadler, a longtime mobile home owner in Mount Vernon. Here's a connect, Mount Vernon, Chapins. And now the current president of the state's sole organization advocating on behalf of this community, the Tenant Association of Manufactured Homeowners. Right on. Sadler said she had kept an eye on Hurst and Son and feels like their practices have become increasingly predatory in recent years. There's that word, predatory. Sadler said she has kept... Oh, okay. They're all about the money. That's all they care about. They're all about the money. That's all they care about. They care nothing about these people, she said. Another little, frail, elderly woman who could barely struggle out of her unit came to me and she said, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. I'm not going to be able to live here. I have nowhere else to go. With few options for legal recourse, Sadler has advised tenants to take up their concerns with the state's Attorney General's office. The office oversees a manufactured housing dispute resolution program for helping negotiate conflicts between residents and landlords. Hardy and Wilson said they have helped several neighbors submit complaints. The Attorney General, we've got people filing complaints, but they don't do much. The system is there, but it's functioning against these people. Data obtained by Crosscut show the Attorney General's office has received at least 102 consumer complaints filed against mobile home park owners by Hurst and Son since 2016 to 2082. What? Oh, I'm like, we're not even 2082. What are you talking about? Oh my gosh. I just fast forwarded it. Whoa. 82 of which were closed. Whoa. Whoa. Data obtained by Crosscut shows the Attorney General's office has received at least 102 consumer complaints filed against the mobile home parks owned by Hurst and Son since 2016. 82 now, of which now are closed, you guys. 82. It's moving fast, right? This is fast moving in the scheme of things. The office acknowledged receipt of the complaints, but declined to answer questions about their handling of these complaints or their interactions with Hurst and Son managers. In emails between the Attorney General's office and Hurst and Son, regional manager told officials they had followed all provisions of RCW 59.20, the Manufactured Home the Manufactured Mobile Home Landlord Tenant Act in raising rents and notifying tenants. There's no formal rent increase notice provided by RCW 5920. One email reads, Ishbal Dickens, a retired attorney with experience working in manufactured housing tenant rights, said the act prevents manufactured homeowners from being evicted without any cause, but does not place any limits as to how far a landlord can raise a tenant's rent, which has been the case with the landlords such as Hurst Sons. That's weird. And cases who can evict them just by making it too expensive to stay there. So they have all these other laws, right? Manufactured home rent prevents homeowners from being evicted without any cause. So being evicted without any cause, yet they let this cause just run rampant. I mean, by raising their rent like they did. That's just nuts. In what they hope can serve as a template for other communities, Hardy and Wilson helped establish a Leisure Manor Tenant Association in February 2022. Now we're getting into, the deaths happened prior to, Hannah's death was prior to that, year before, not too long, November, I believe. I think it was November. And then the next year comes around, and that's when Hudson passes, right? May, I believe. And I'm not saying these are connected with these. I'm just, in the overall scheme of things, just wait. Deep breath. Okay, hold on. I'll take a moment. In what they hope can serve as a template for other communities, Hardy and Son helped establish the Leisure Manor Tenants Association in February 2022. Okay, I had to go take a bathroom break, so I'm missing where I'm at here. In February 2022, and collectively push for new protections, including a city-level ordinance requiring longer notice of rent increases, so residents have more time to adjust their finances to find new housing. Yeah, because they're just like changing them. They're not giving them any notice. They're like just, from month to month, they're raising these things. Another Leisure Manor resident, Butch Koik, 61, told Crosscut he can no longer afford to live in his home of 40 years, you guys. 40 freaking years. And he has no clue where he's going to go. What am I going to do? I have no other options but to tear my trailer down and move on. He said, I ain't going to give it to them. There's no way in hell. These people don't care about the elderly or anybody. It's just all they care about is money. True that. Carolyn Hardy looks out the window of Deb and Dave Wilson's home in Leisure Manor Estates in Aberdeen, July 21st, 2023. And I know this Wilson, probably not connected to the other Wilsons, right? But or are they? Like who do you trust in this thing? Because there's this entire this ecosystem amongst these these places and amongst the people that are like own these things, and they all have their role to play in this right here, right? From the people that have all the money that buy it, from the people who can't afford any other place to live. I'm not saying they have their roles, but in the scheme of things, they do have their role because they're using them for their role, right? Which is sick. Absolutely sick. Market pressures keep rising. Nearly 400 miles from Leisure Manor Estates sits Hideaway Community, a Hurst Sons community just outside Spokane city limits. Housing prices have skyrocketed in nearby areas following the construction of a nearby Amazon distribution center, a common issue throughout the Spokane region. The manufactured home industry often highlights its role in providing affordable housing, especially as home prices have spiked during the pandemic. In 2022, the average sales price for all new manufactured homes in U.S. was $123,000. A little over $123,000. compared to $540,000. What? For a new home. Okay. So the mobile homes are $123, stick built $540, according to the U.S. Census Bureau and U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The manufactured home price does not include the cost of renting the underlying property. So they've got to find a place, either buy a piece of property and have it, perked for everything, or get them the mobile home into a park where they pay a lot rent and, what other amenities or whatever, however they're going to do that. Typically, they'll pay for like the water, the garbage, the mowing, like keeping the lawns, that kind of stuff, the maintenance that way. And also for the park maintenance, like if there's something happens, like, where not necessarily to your mobile home, because you own that, but to like their own, like if their water line messes up, then they've got to get in there and pay for it. Well, that's what these guys didn't do with the E. coli part. They let that go for months. And that, how disgusting. Disgusting. In Spokane, Realtor.com lists mobile and manufactured homes for as little as $49,000, but a newer or larger home could go for almost $200,000. Even top models remain well below the average price of a traditional house, which Zillow.com pegs at almost $400,000, despite the recent cooling in the Spokane market. There's some of my favorite places I've ever lived were mobile homes. They had some cool mobile homes. So I don't know what. I know that they don't last, as long as a stick built. But then again, if you keep them up, they do last. You just have to keep them up, right? For certain things like the roof and things like that. At the Hideaway community, residents range from longtime owners who have multiple generations living in the park to newer residents who purchase trailers from Hurst Sons in search of affordable home ownership. Crosscut talked to approximately a dozen different families in the park. The adverse relationship with the management has led to most of them asking to be anonymous for fear of retaliation. That's so disturbing. So basically, they're keeping quiet because they feel like they're going to come get them for one reason or another, raise their rent, even continue to raise their rent, give them, fees, those $65 fees for whatever they feel they can give it to them for. Sounds like they're randomly giving them out without even giving a real reason for it. Wow. One resident willing to provide her name was Miranda Romero, 37. She had lived in an apartment, but as rent went up, she started searching for new housing. I want to own my home, she said. So she says, okay, I want to own my home, she said. She said she provided a $25,000 down payment for a new manufactured home that cost $125,000 at Hideaway last year, but didn't receive a receipt until months later. She said she still doesn't know how much exactly she still owes on the house because managers are so infrequent with documents. That's exactly what they want, right? Romero's story illustrates the fragile nature of manufactured home ownership. Most residents who own such homes must still lease the underlying property. Paying off their home does not guarantee stability since they still remain subject to the rent rates for the underlying property owner, or rates of the underlying property owner. Okay, left. James Williams stands in front of his home in White Dove, where his rent recently increased from $390 to $600 per month. Look at that, you guys. He's got a lot of cats. He's got that's, it's really, really sad. But in mobile home parks, there's basically all walks that live in these parks, right? Because of the rents, little less. But it doesn't mean that everybody, I mean, he doesn't have trash all over his property. He just can't keep up his home. He doesn't have the money to paint it or do whatever he needs to do with it, right? Although it looks like he's got bones in his yard, and it's kind of crazy, right? It kind of bothers me. But yeah, he's probably the guy that takes care of all the people that move out, that leave all their animals, things like that. Because there's people that do that. It's just, I can't even believe it. But okay. So, from $390 to $600 per month, Hurst and Son has told him to repaint his home's exterior, which would cost several $1,000s. So the right of it. William's neighbor Susan Russell's backyard was entirely green grass when she moved into the White Dove home 2 years ago. She says Hurst and Son workers dug up her yard when installing a septic tank that left only dirt and rocks. The company has since given her notice to water her grass, but the irrigation system for the park is turned off. So that's back to the irrigation system. So over there in Eastern Washington, in those places like that, with the that's really they don't get a lot. Let me see. Over there's not a lot of rain that comes down, not like in other areas of Washington, and so they have to watch out how much water they use during the rest of the year. And so they have these systems set up for irrigation, and they turn them on because of that. It's meant, that's part of what, they do. And it's well known over there. They do it for farmers. They do it for, it's everywhere. So for them to have that yet not turn it on, that's a problem. Many residents own homes that have become too old to move if there is a major issue, such as a dramatic rise in rent, or the manufactured home community closes. They may be called mobile homes, but more often they are functionally anchored to their lots. Washington Department of Commerce reports about 30 communities with a combined 582 lots has closed statewide since 2017. The agency offers a relocation program where they provide both technical and financial assistance to eligible residents based on income who are impacted by a community closure. However, there's a limit to the amount of financial assistance, up to $11,000 for a single wide home and $17,000 for a double wide. In some scenarios, owners may still have to sign over their home to the community owner because even with cash assistance, it might not be financially or practically feasible to move their home. The cash assistance might instead go towards finding other housing rather than preserving their mobile home. So, that would be so hard. The one that you like the one person was 40 years, right? Thought that was their forever home. Then maybe they have to have something like this happen. So their home that they've always had now has to be assigned over to this other company, and they've got to go find another one and basically start all over again. One resident who lived in Hideaway for nearly 24 years said Hurst & Son had promised improvements to the park when they purchased it back in 2015. They repaved the roads in the community, but the community has done little work since. If anything, the park looks worse, the resident said. The trees that once surrounded the community are now gone. The evening sun shines on mobile homes in the Sun Tides Mobile Home Park in Glebe, Washington. Residents also complained about a new water fee policy that they said split water charges evenly across tenants each month instead of tracking use with individual meters, meaning a single retiree pays for consuming as much water as a large family household regardless of actual usage. That's not legal either, I don't think. That is absolutely nuts. Plus, the thing is they can actually, I can just see them do this, is that they're not going to give, it's not going to be consistent. It's not going to be actual, like, they can actually fudge it, right? Residents have, several residents who had the option to live with family and other means have already left the community in frustration. But many others, including the community residents of 24 years, said they cannot just leave, and they fear continuing rent increases will force them out. I'm going to lose my home. The only one I've known, she said. A call for stronger protections. Washington lawmakers passed a new law earlier this year requiring the state's Department of Commerce to provide notifications when a mobile home community goes up for sale, allowing residents a chance to band together to purchase parks themselves. Senator Noel Frame, a Democrat representing Seattle's 36th legislative district, said she authored the bill after growing concerns over the broader trend of displacement for low-income folks and seniors. We've all noticed how much housing costs and land costs have gone up over the last many years. And when you're talking about low-income and senior folks on fixed incomes, they weren't even getting an opportunity to compete or to purchase, and now they have the opportunity. That's pretty cool. Deb Wilson with Carolyn Hardy founded the Leisure Manor Tenants Association, which has spearheaded attempts to rally residents at Leisure Manor and other Hearst-owned parks against rent increases and fought to enact tenant protections into state and local law. Oh, he's got all this stuff around him. Dave Wilson at his desk in his home in Leisure Manor Estates. Dave and his wife, Deb, have pushed for better mobile home tenant protections. Good for you guys. All the little Afghans, all the little probably grandkids stuff on the wall and kids. And the bill also builds in a penalty for $10,000 if landlords willingly fail to comply with notifying the state of a pending purchase. If the problem continues to persist, Frame said, the Attorney's General Office will get involved. Well, that's good. Meaning that if they, sell the mobile home park without, or even put it up that they're going to have it for sale, they need to tell the tenants that, because, how else are they going to go out there and find another place, right? You never know how long it's going to take for something like that to sell, depending on the cost and whatever. But so they need a chance to, they should be fine. They should be fine more than that. Commerce officials started listing community sales on the market in July. O'Bannon, with the resident-owned cooperative group ROC Northwest, said the new law should immediately empower more residents to pursue self-ownership of their communities. Totally. ROC Northwest has worked with 24 owner cooperatives to purchase manufactured home communities in Washington and North Idaho. O'Bannon noted the average annual rent increase for residents-owned manufactured homes in communities across the U.S. is 0.9%, well above the double-digit increases seen at Hurst and Son communities. So the problem with that is, so if it's Hurst and Son that owns it and being able to purchase, those things, they're going to hike that price up, right? It's just going to be, God, what a war, what a racket, man. I can see certain things, but but everybody, until they start figuring something out to make it more on an even, it can't be even. I know that can't be even from low to high income, right? I know that. But there's definitely, you can't just increase all the rent and the food and the gas without increasing the amount of money that these people are getting and the hourly fee for, their job and things like that, their wages. It's just I don't know. It irks me to no end. I worked a lot with the elderly people, and just every time I would, we sit and talk, and it'd be just like, wow, I can't even believe this is happening to these poor people. Their medications go up, yet their pay didn't go up. They don't get extra pay throughout the month. They're on a fixed income, yet their meds went up double. That kind of stuff. Sad. Where did I leave off here? What's the 10,000 me looking here? Oh, Kitty's top of the car. What are you doing there, girl? Several Hurst and Son community residents said they wish they had a chance to pursue similar ownership options. But many mobile home community residents never hear about a sale or change in ownership until after the deal has gone through. We kind of got thrown into the situation because all of a sudden one day we were notified that the rent was going up and we got new leases, Wilson said. And what they did was we couldn't fight the purchase because they went directly to the owner. And unless the purchase was advertised, we had no recourse. We had no time to offer to purchase the park. Exactly what I just said. When a community goes up for sale, O'Bannon said, ROC Northwest now starts meeting with resident homeowners to assess the feasibility of a cooperative and vote on the matter. She said a successful cooperative generally needs the support of 57% of the residents and a strong commitment to collective ownership. Given the upfront cost, the owners might still have to weather an increase, she explained, but the hope is that the lot rent will eventually stabilize and residents will not have to endure the numerous drastic increases seen in other communities. O'Bannon said other housing advocates argued mobile home park residents still need additional help from state and federal agencies to compete with the deep pockets and aggressive management of investors looking to take advantage of these communities. Yeah, big time. So up top, a desk at Deb and Dave Wilson's house is covered in notes and research from their fight to enact tenant protections across state and local law. The Wilsons and the Hardys testified before the state legislature in Olympia and the Aberdeen City Council and have helped get some local protections in place. Right on. A separate bill to bolster resident protections in Washington state law failed to pass the legislative this year. Bummer. Senator Kevin Van de Weg or whatever, out of Sequim, introduced a proposed bill to prohibit mobile home community rent increases larger than the rate of inflation and giving the State Utilities and Transportation Commission new authority to regulate rates and services in those communities. Well, but it didn't pass, right? Failed to pass, yeah. So SB 5697 would also have imposed fines up to $100,000 against landlords who violated the limits on rent increases. The bill did not make it out of the committee. So, come on, people, get some legs on these things. Do your jobs. O'Bannon said that her organization and other advocates are going to continue working with legislators to push for additional policies, such as rent stabilization, to ensure continued affordability for manufactured homeowners. Manufactured homes must be preserved, maintained, and developed as a part of the landscape of affordable housing, she said. The sun sets behind a sign at Suntide's RV park. An early victory and ongoing efforts. In mid-July, the Aberdeen City Council gathered to consider a proposed ordinance to expand the required notification period on rent increases greater than 3% from 90 days to at least 120 days. Wilson and Hardy had spent the preceding months inviting local officials to Leisure Manor's community clubhouse to meet their residents and petitioning neighbors for signatures in support of the ordinance. Leading up to the vote, Wilson came before the podium, speaking on behalf of those without transportation, those who are bedridden, and those who cannot get here, to show their support for the ordinance in person or via Zoom. She told the council passing the ordinance is the least they could do, as the advance notice would help residents of Leisure Manor and elsewhere prepare ahead of time for potential economic eviction. She told the council passing the ordinance is the least they could do, as it still doesn't word right to me. She told the council passing the ordinance is the least they could do, as the advance notice would help residents of Leisure Manor and elsewhere prepare ahead of time for potential economic eviction. Okay. We must find a new affordable home and sell our forever home, she said. We must pack and or get rid of many years of memories, household items, and furniture. Remember, these bodies are not the bodies of my youth, or our youth. This will be overwhelming and physically draining. Hardy's husband Bill took time to recognize other mobile home residents in attendance and emphasize the importance of these protections for all renters, not just Leisure Manor residents. I am delighted to see one of the other mobile home park people come to our presentation today. Because these ordinances we're working on are going to affect you, he said. These things affect people throughout the city. I really appreciate your support. City Ordinance 6698 passed unanimously. Yes. Carolyn Hardy said the vote validated a lot of their work. Council members praised the tenants for going up against their own property managers. We felt like someone was finally listening to us, she said. Wilson and Hardy said they will continue to coalesce solidarity among other solidarity among other parks potential class action. Okay, visiting a community in nearby Westport, that's kind of a poor community, and meeting with other Hurst Sons residents in the Puget Sound area. They still hope for Attorney General's office will step in and eventually build enough of a case to hold their landlord accountable. In the meantime, some tenants have started sending Hurst Sons two checks every month. One check is the amount of their previous rent, and a second for the difference of the rent increase. Ooh. Keep that on record. Take a picture. Click. They hope the separate checks will make it easier to tally financial damages if they can. Oh yeah, that's actually pretty smart. They hope the separate checks will make it easier to tally financial damages if they can take a claim to court. But they also want to send Hurst Sons a message. On the memo line of these second checks, they always inscribed 2 words: in protest. Wow, that's pretty smart. That's where those guys, where the retaliation on the the Hurst Sons comes into action, is that kind of stuff pisses them off, But it's like, I really feel for these people. I feel for everybody out there that doesn't have a place to go. I mean, they're making it so you don't have a place to go. It's like, there's so many things I don't understand about how this works, and obviously I don't understand it because I'm still in the midst of it, right? So dusk sets over Wild Dove Community in Union Gap, Washington on August 15th, 2023. Hurst Sons purchased the park in 2021, and residents say housing costs have since doubled. Correction. The previous version of the story misidentified the Leisure Manor Tenant Association. Okay. All right. So there's this one. And it continues. There's many, many more. And I mean many, 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 many more. And we'll get there. I won't be reading all of them like this, but this was a pretty good one. All right. Get this up and running. Love you guys. The people that own this, they're out of Port Orchard, Washington. I believe that the building that is basically their office, it's something like, it's worth like $7 million. I mean, it's like, come on, you guys. If this is what you're going to do, if you're going to, scoop them all up and purchase all of them, the least you can do is do something for your community. And I mean, wouldn't it make I would think it would make their standing so much better and would bring them so much more rewarding profit, without having to do things like this. How much money do they have to have anyway? I mean, are they not living comfortably way over comfortable at this point? How much do they have to have? Sad. Sad, sad.